Hi there, health fitness specialist students. This video is just going to cover Chapter 7, the PowerPoint slides for Chapter 7, which is just dealing with nutrition. Note that you can access these PowerPoint slides all in the content button in our e-learning course site. So a lot of this stuff is a review from your LWT 210, or some of you might have taken LW 222, Science of Nutrition courses. So a couple things I just want to point out is our scope of practice. So as far as, we are able to address misinformation, to give general advice, as far as, physical performance, disease, prevention, weight loss, weight gain. But as far as comprehensive dietary assessments, it's always good to refer to a registered dietitian for stuff like that. And then even people who have diseased states, they might need medical nutrition therapy. So they would be referred to a registered dietitian for something of that nature. So always, as we've stated before, when in doubt, refer it out if you have that issue. As far as our dietary assessment goes, I know I had asked you all to analyze your client's diet, and some of you have already done so, and some of you are still trying to work on that. But there are some different methods we can use as far as dietary assessment, and one is just a recall of the last 24 hours. So asking your client, what have you ingested in the last 24-hour period? Or just a basic history, like we had a health history questionnaire that you asked your client at the beginning of this whole process, and some of that had some dietary patterns in it, and you asked some basic questions about their dietary patterns in general. And then probably the most valid and most one that we're going to use is the 3-day diet assessment, where you're going to ask them to record everything they eat and drink for a 3-day period. I always try to ask them to include a weekend day and 2 weekdays, because we eat differently on the weekends than we do during the week sometimes. So if you can do that with 3 consecutive days. So I always try to ask for like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That way you'll get that whole kind of a snapshot of their dietary pattern as a whole. So that 3-day is probably the most valid and the best way if we're going to try to analyze and help a person or help a client out with their diet. So things that you're looking at is, are they meeting the general guidelines? What are the RDAs for all your vitamins, for all your minerals, for those essential nutrients, and identifying if they're meeting those RDAs. And that's information that you can share with your client. We're looking to see if their diet is balanced as far as the 5 food groups. Are they getting what they need from each of those 5 different food groups? We're looking at, the timing of when they're ingesting those key nutrients like carb, protein, and fat. And are they, timing them appropriately with their workouts, for example? And then are they having any restrictions? Are they restricting certain foods from their diet? And if so, is that also causing them to lack key nutrients? And then what is their eating pattern overall? So these are all things that we can be talking to our client about and just sharing some basic information in ways that they can make good changes. So as far as the general guidelines go for your 5 food groups, you can see, some ranges like grains, 5 to 8 ounces. There's no set, for everybody. If you enter your your information in, depending on your activity status and your age and your gender, maybe it's recommended you get 8 ounces a day versus some people who are sedentary might only need 5 ounces a day. Okay. So Antonio, I'm trying to make a video. So then you have different ranges here. Okay. So fruits and vegetables, half of your plate should be made up of fruits and vegetables. Dairy, roughly around 3 cups for most individuals. And then also for your oils, around 6 teaspoons. So, general recommendations. We want to make sure our clients are getting something from each of those key food groups. So there are 3 energy requiring processes in our body. Resting metabolism is one. So basically the calories you burn for life-sustaining functions, like to breathe, for your heart to beat, for your body to maintain homeostasis. So if you were to sit awake in a complete state of rest for 24 hours and never moved, your body still is burning calories to maintain metabolism, maintain that resting metabolism. So that accounts for anywhere from 60 to 75% of your total calorie burn in a day. So that's the biggest chunk. So as far as our calorie burn every day, resting metabolism accounts for a large chunk of it. The thermic effect of food is basically dietary thermogenesis. So when we ingest food, your body has to process it, transport it, digest it, absorb those key nutrients. And in order for your body to do that, it burns calories as well. It only accounts for about 7 to 10% of your calorie burn each day, but it does account for calories burned. And then lastly, we have physical activity. And for most people, physical activity can account for up to about 30% of our total calorie burn every day. So when we look at those three energy requiring processes, resting metabolism is the biggest chunk. We burn the most calories every day just through resting metabolism. Thermic effect of food is the least, right? Only about 7 to 10%, with physical activity being about 30% of our calorie burn each day. Obviously, resting metabolism can be it can be manipulated many different ways. For one, the amount of muscle you have on your frame. If a person has more muscle on their frame, their resting metabolism is going to be higher. They're going to burn more calories at rest than a person who has less muscle and more fat, only because muscle is a very metabolically active tissue. So the more muscle you have on your frame, the more calories you will burn every day, even at rest. Okay, so there are some things that can really impact that resting metabolism. As far as your macros go, protein, carb, and fat, we all know this. You guys know this. Protein and carbs contain 4 calories per gram. Fat contains 9. Okay, as far as recommendations go, general recommendations for protein intake is a 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight for healthy sedentary adults. Now, obviously, if their physical activity status goes up, their protein requirements go up as well. So it can go anywhere from 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight, depending on what type of physical activity they're doing. For example, if you have an athlete who is an aerobic endurance athlete, it might only be 1.2 to 1.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. Whereas if you have a power lifter, an athlete who's picking up and putting down heavy things on a daily basis for their sport, it might be more like 2 grams per kilogram of body weight for protein requirements. So obviously, just like anything, excess calories are stored as fat. So if a person goes on a high protein diet, they still have to keep in mind that they're consuming extra calories because protein has 4 calories per gram. And if they're not doing something physical to burn off those extra calories, they will be stored as fat. Carbohydrates, we know, are our number one preferred source of fuel for our brain, central nervous system, and skeletal muscle. So that's why the largest chunk of our calories every day should come from carbohydrates, but we want to make sure we're ingesting the right types of carbohydrates, right? The whole grain, the high fiber types of carbs. So general recommendations are at least 50 to 100 grams a day to prevent ketosis. So we don't want to damage those kidneys, the liver, as a result of maybe a diet that's too high in protein. So as our physical activity status goes up again, you can see the the requirements for carbohydrate go up as well. So for physically active people, roughly 5 to 6 grams per kilogram of body weight is recommended per day. But as far as aerobic endurance athletes, they have a greater requirement. So it's 7 to 10 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. And those would be athletes that are doing more than 90 minutes of aerobic exercise every single day. As far as your fats go, we all know there's good and bad. So your good fats are considered your unsaturated. Okay, so your mono and polyunsaturated fats, your essential fatty acids, those are all smart fats. They're good for our heart. So a good chunk of our calories from fat should come from unsaturated fat. So that's why we're saying 20% of your calories or 2/3 of your total fat intake should be unsaturated. Saturated fats are the bad fats. I call them sticky fats because they stick to the walls of your arteries and they contribute to plaque buildup. So no more than 10% of your total calories each day should come from saturated fats. Your omega-3s and your omega-6s, great for central nervous system, development, brain, that sort of thing. So 3-to-1 ratio, so it's a 3-to-1, omega-6, 3-to-1 omega-3 intake. As far as fats go, we all know that too much of your bad fats can lead to negative health outcomes. So definitely limiting our intake of our saturated fats, our trans fats, and the cholesterol that we ingest through our foods is very, very important. But we definitely want to reduce our consumption of fat because it's going to help support the training and an increase in carbohydrate ingestion. It also helps for achieving weight loss because you're definitely decreasing your caloric intake by reducing your fat intake. And also it helps to decrease any blood cholesterol levels that might be high. So too low fat can be negative. So anything less than 15% of your total calories from fat could decrease testosterone absorption or production, and also could impair absorption of those fat soluble vitamins, your A, D, E, and K. So trying to stay within that recommended 20 to 35% of your total calories each day from fat is probably a good thing to do. As far as your vitamins and minerals, these are considered your micronutrients. They do not provide any calories, but they do serve structural and functional purposes in our body, so thus they are essential. There are 14 known vitamins. They can be broken down into two categories. You have your fat and your water-soluble vitamins, and you can see them listed there on your screen. The key thing to remember with your water-soluble vitamins is anything above 100% of the RDA, your body is going to excrete. So thus, it's important that we inform our clients to make sure they're ingesting water-soluble vitamins on a daily basis. They're ingesting foods that are rich in these water-soluble vitamins because their body will only use up to 100% of what it needs, and then it excretes the remaining, and it doesn't store it, okay? Fat-soluble vitamins, on the other hand, your body can store for longer periods of time. So we don't necessarily have to eat foods that are rich in the A, D, E, and K every day, but as long as we're throwing them in our diet every few days, your body will store what it doesn't need and take from those stores as it needs them. Minerals, there are 15 minerals. Okay, again, those 15 are required. They cannot be produced by the body. So we want to make sure these are key nutrients or minerals of concern listed here. A lot of people are low, like iron, for example, is the #1 key mineral deficiency of many people today. So making sure they're consuming enough iron. Calcium is another one. Magnesium and zinc are two as well. So as far as our vitamins go, making sure that we're meeting that recommended dietary allowance. Some vitamins will list just an AI, an adequate intake, only if there is no RDA listed. Okay, so you might see an AI instead of an RDA for different vitamins. And then tolerable upper intake level just basically says that we can ingest up to this higher level and not have any toxic, like overdose effects of ingesting that vitamin. So for example, vitamin C, it might say the RDA for most individuals around 75 milligrams a day, but the upper limit, the tolerable upper limit might be 300 milligrams. So basically saying you're not, if you can go up to that level, but not have any overdose effects as a result. Hydration is another key component that your chapter talks about in your book. A great way to tell if you're dehydrated are these key things. Unexplained weight loss, we're dehydrated, we weigh less on the scale. I mean, the body's 60 to 70% water, so if we're dehydrated, of course, the number is going to go down on the scale. Urine is dark yellow, right? Your urine should be clear and it doesn't smell. That's a great way to tell if you're hydrated. Decrease in the frequency of urination, right? Or your resting heart rate is rapid, or you have muscle soreness that just doesn't go away. Those are key indicators that we might be dehydrated. So definitely make sure we're ingesting not only fluids, okay, water, but also, a lot of foods have a high water content. For example, a lot of your fruits are really high in water. Vegetables, some of them are really high in water. So even consuming those foods can contribute to our water intake. So as far as your general requirements go, as far as water goes, we want to avoid dehydration and maintain that fluid balance. So before exercise, 5 to 7 milliliters of fluid per kilogram of body weight. So that equates to about 2 to 3 cups of water prior to exercise. During, it should, really depend on the situation. If it's a hot, humid environment, you're taking breaks every 15, maybe 20 minutes to hydrate and grab some water. So it really depends on the environment that you're exercising in, the duration of the exercise that you're performing. And then after, 20 to 24 fluid ounces for every pound that you lose on the scale. That's how much water you should replenish with. As far as what activities, anything that's greater than 60 minutes, less than 60 minutes, water is the best fluid replacement. Okay, but if you're doing exercise greater than 60 minutes in a day, or you're doing multiple games throughout the course of the day, definitely need to replace those electrolytes. So sports drinks, Gatorade, Powerade would be great. They have to contain a concentration of 6 to 8% carbohydrate. Anything more than 8% carbohydrate will indicate that it's probably higher in sugar. And if it's higher in sugar, that means you are going to defeat the purpose of rehydrating. So, that's why Gatorade is a great replenishment for those electrolytes. But anything, it's got to be greater than 60 minutes. If they're exercising less than 60, water is more than enough for that client. As far as weight gain, on the other hand, many people want to gain. Some of our clients might want to gain weight. So we have to increase their caloric intake by about 250 to 500 calories a day. And it doesn't have to be just protein calories. It can be all, spread between carb, protein, and fat. And we should also try to increase that protein a little bit, between 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So definitely, want to combine diet with a progressive resistance training program if they want to gain the weight. But these are some key guidelines to follow if a client wants to gain. As far as weight loss goes, which many of our clients are probably going to look for, we want to make sure they understand that 1 pound of fat is equivalent to 3,500 calories. So that means that we need to decrease their caloric intake anywhere from 500 to 1,000 calories a day, choosing foods that are lower in energy density, right? There's few calories per gram when you're choosing that particular food. So a goal is 1 to 2 pounds a week of weight loss, or a total of 1% of their body weight per week. Those are good goals when we want to choose a weight loss program. We want to do resistance training to help preserve their lean body mass, so we don't want to just continually focus on cardio. Resistance training is important, okay? And as far as weight loss diets, there's a lot of fad diets out there today. I'm sure you've heard of many, and I'm sure your clients will ask you about, this diet or that diet. I always say if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is, right? If it encourages a large amount of weight to be lost in a short period of time, I wouldn't follow it. If it excludes multiple food groups, or it really restricts different types of foods, I wouldn't follow it, right? If they don't, if they say you don't have to exercise with it, well, that's a red flag to me when I see stuff like that. So just, things to think about. There's a lot of fad diets out there. People are looking for a quick fix. So as a personal trainer, it's up to us to educate them on the importance of, not going on these fad diets and following a eating plan that they can sustain for long term and the rest of their life. As far as supplements go, I did want to touch on just a couple different things, but there are many dietary supplements sold over the counter, and I do want to stress that they are not regulated by the FDA. Okay, folks, these are not regulated by the FDA. Unlike pharmaceutical drugs, drugs go under strict in-depth testing by the FDA. Dietary supplements do not. So that's why this is a buyer beware market. We have to be cautious about, what people are buying over the counter. So you can see a list of here, a ton of different examples of dietary supplements on the market. Now, supplements can make claims about body structure and function. So it might say this is designed to enhance normal bowel function. Okay, so it can make those claims, but it cannot claim to diagnose, prevent, cure, or treat disease. So if they make a claim on the front of the package saying this will enhance normal bowel function, on the back of the package you'll see the FDA disclaimer saying this product has not been evaluated or tested by the FDA, and it cannot claim to diagnose, prevent, cure, mitigate, treat disease. So when you see those claims on the front of your packages for your supplements, I guarantee on the back of it somewhere you're going to see that FDA disclaimer saying, hey, the FDA doesn't support this claim, right? So supplements have to contain that FDA disclaimer. So be cautious. Make sure you're educating your clients about intaking different supplements. Like, for example, too many vitamins or too many minerals, excess amounts can lead to overdose consequences. Make sure they're choosing food sources versus a pill. If they're lacking in vitamin C, maybe share with them, these are all foods that are rich in vitamin C. And they might say, oh yeah, I love those. I'll start eating those more often. Instead of saying, hey, take it through a pill. So I always encourage getting it through your foods. A lot of our foods today are fortified, meaning they add key vitamins and minerals already to it. So, that's something to acknowledge. And if you're getting it through a whole food, chances are you're getting other key nutrients from that food versus just taking that pill. So, I know at the end of your PowerPoint presentation, there are some check your understanding questions. So if you would get your answers to those when we meet on Monday, I am going to go through those so you can see what so we can see what the answers are. So just a quick understanding of, Chapter 7, nutrition. Also, I did want to point out in our course site, if you go down to nutrition case study, I have uploaded a nutrition case study that you'll be completing and submitting in the assignment folder. That will be due at the end of next week. Okay, so it's not due till a week from Sunday. So let me look at the date of what that might be. So we're looking at Sunday, April 5th. Okay, but you can start working on that nutrition case study. Also, I have uploaded some articles that I wanted to share with you. This first one, page 1, this is page 1, and then page 2 is uploaded behind it. But these are just nutrient recommendations from the NSCA, Essentials of Nutrition and Athletic Performance. So this is a different textbook, but it deals strictly with nutrition and athletes. So I added some pages on nutrient recommendations for athletes when it comes to your macronutrients. So that first page is for that, and then page 2, page 3, and page 4. So there's 4 pages on carb, protein, and fat recommendations for athletes. Also, I've uploaded this nutrition advice article that is very interesting about the different states and the laws governing what a personal trainer can legally tell their client. So I encourage you to read that article because it's very interesting. So page 1 is there, and then page 2 here. And then lastly, I have also uploaded just a 3-day dietary recall. Like, this is page 1 of what it would look like. So if you ever want to create a document for your client, this is just an easy log that you could use to give them for a 3-day dietary recall. So just some added resources that go along with the nutrition chapter. But again, the only thing you're doing as far as nutrition goes for next week is answering this case study. And you're going to submit that in the assignment folder, okay, by that deadline. Here's the assignment folder. Okay, so you're going to submit that there by that deadline of the April 5th. Okay, so have a good day.